Okay, so welcome again to another random walk down Mill Street. It's not so random because we're going to talk about the Ten Commandments, which happens to be included in this week's parasha, Parashat Yitro. So what we're going to do today, just so you can plan how long you're going to be here for, in the past, most of these presentations have been very heavy on music or liturgy. We're going to do some of that today, but that's probably about 10 minutes worth. And then we're going to spend another 10 or 15 minutes talking about depictions of tablets of the law here at Shearith Israel. So you'll get a little music, you get a little liturgy, and you'll get a little, I don't know if it's art or ritual objects or ritual art here at Shearith Israel. And that's our agenda today. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And trying to figure out if there's a way that I can see a little better what you see. Let's try this. Okay. Can you see my screen? It should have a random walk down Mill Street on the front page. Just a yes or no and thumbs up. Thumbs up. Good. Okay. Excellent. The agenda for today, we're going to start by talking about minhagim for Parashat Yitro, Shabbat Yitro. I probably won't hit every minhag. In fact, I realized that last week when we talked about Shabbat Shirah, I forgot to do much of that. But we're not going backwards. We'll have to come again next year. We'll figure out the minhagim for Parashat B'Shalach. And then we'll listen to and examine the Torah reading, especially the High Na'um. But you are familiar, if you joined us last week, with what High Na'um sounds like. So we don't have to do too much of it, but we will listen to the Ten Commandments. I have especially in mind those of you who, for whatever reason, COVID or otherwise, will not be going to synagogue this Shabbat. And so we will listen to the Ten Commandments here tonight. Then we'll talk about the theme melody for this Shabbat, which is the same melody as is the theme of Shavuot. And then we will talk about the tablets of the law, the depictions of the Aseret Dibrot here at Shearith Israel. Okay, so minhagim. The first and probably the most, well, there's a lot of important minhagim, but the first thing I want to talk to you about is what happens when the Ten Commandments are read. In some Sephardic synagogues, everyone remains seated because Maimonides has a ruling, that there's no part of the Torah that is more important than any other part, and you should stay seated for all of them, or you should stand for everything. Either you stand for everything or you sit for everything. He doesn't like that certain portions of the Torah people would stand, for certain portions of the Torah people would sit. But that is decidedly not the minhag here at Shearith Israel. We do stand for various important portions of the law, and one of them is the Ten Commandments. And that is the custom here. So when we get to the 20th chapter, it is in Shishi. The congregation will stand for the Ten Commandments and then sit afterwards. Some people have the custom to stand for the entire Aliyah. Others have to stand just for the Ten Commandments itself, which was and is my personal custom as well, despite the fact that some of the rabbis don't like that. But that is my custom. We can have a whole shiur about that entire issue another day, not for this class. But that's the first thing you should know. Second thing you should know is that the custom here at Shearith Israel is that the Ten Commandments appear in the sixth Aliyah, Shishi. But in Amsterdam, they do something interesting. They if there is the rabbi or the chacham of the community, Sometimes there's a chacham, sometimes there's not a chacham. Sometimes the chacham is in residence in synagogue for Shabbat. Sometimes the chacham is not there for that week. If the chacham is present in the synagogue on this Shabbat, they will adjust the aliyot so that the 10 commandments come in the 7th aliyah, which means that they shorten the 6th aliyah and because they call the rabbi in the most honored spot. And in Spanish-Portuguese world, the most honored aliyah you could have is mashlim, the last aliyah that comes right before the kaddish. And so that is the custom in Amsterdam. We do not do that here. Even if the greatest chacham were to walk in the door, I don't know who that greatest chacham is, but whoever is in your mind are the greatest chacham possible, even if he came to synagogue, we would most likely call him for the 6th aliyah. They don't adjust the way it's broken up in the Torah. That's another interesting custom. Here at Sheretz Israel, we also treat this Shabbat as if it were a festive holiday. So the Torah scrolls are dressed in fancy colors, as they were last week for Shabbat Shira as well. And we sing festive melodies. We'll talk about the theme melody of the day a little later, but we adjust the melody for the Lechadodi. We use the festive melody for Lechadodi, not the regular one. We have a festive melody for the Kaddish, not the regular Kaddish at the end of a Friday night, and little things like that, which indicate that it is a festive day, not a regular Shabbat. And then, of course, the centerpiece is the Torah reading itself, which is in Parashat Yitro and comes towards the end of the parasha. And we listened last week to the Shirat Hayam, also in this special High Na'um, which is the elevated notes. Now, sometimes people get confused, and the term probably is in some fashion related to, but is not the same as what's known as Tam Elyon. Tam Elyon. The 10 Commandments have two different sets of musical notation, Masoretic notation, called the Ta'amim, Ta'amei HaMikra. We read for the 10 Commandments, Tam Elyon, the high notes, and there is another set, which is called Tam Tachton. The origin of that is quite interesting. There are different Masoretic traditions, and one got used for the reading of the 10 Commandments. They have to do with how you number number or break up the verses. That's really what it's all about. Doesn't have to do with the music, but we read Tam Elyon for the 10 Commandments, and there are confusingly, the reason I'm mentioning this is because we're going to listen to Rabbi Rode chant it in the High Na'um. But if you have a book, this is what you're looking at on the screen is Tam Elyon. But if you had a book that some Torah printed Chumashim print Tam Tachton, in fact, I think it was probably an error, but the makers of the Amsterdam prayer book that came out maybe 5 or 6 years ago included the Tam Tachton, which we don't read in the synagogue. It's only read if you're reading at home or studying at home. But anyway, I digress. So just be aware, if the notes don't seem to match what you're looking at in your Chumash, you're probably using Tam Tachton. So here we go. Let's listen to Rabbi Rode chanting the Tam Elyon, the High Na'um for the 10 Commandments. And if someone can, when we do this, let me know if they hear it by giving me a thumbs up.
Anochi Adonai Elohecha Asher hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mibeit abadim lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim al panai lo ta'aseh lecha fesel v'chol temuna asher b'shamayim.
I just realized as I'm looking at it, I have a Tom Tachton here, and it doesn't matter if I wrote his singing because he's singing the Tom Elyon. Sorry about that, but here we go. Let's continue.
בארץ מתחת ואשר במים מתחת לארץ לא תשתחווה להם ולא תעבדם כי אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך אלקנה פוקד נבון אבות נבנים נשילשים ונריבנים לשונאי ועושה חסד לאלפים לאוהבי ולשומר את מצוותיי לא תישא את שם אדוני אלוהיך לשווא כי לא ינקה אדוני את אשר יישא את שמו לשווא זכור את יום השבת לקדשו ששת ימים תעבוד ועשית כל מלאכתך ויום השביעי שבת לאדוני אלוהיך לא תעשה כל מלאכה אתה ובנך ובתך עבדך ואמתך ובהמתך וגרך אשר בשנריך כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ את הים את כל אשר בם וינח ביום השביעי על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו כבד את אביך ואת אמך למען יאריכון ימיך על האדמה אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך לא תרצח לא תנאף לא תגנוב לא תענה ברעך גט שקר לא תחמוד בית רעך לא תחמוד אשת רעך ועבדו ואמתו ושורו וחמורו וכל אשר לרעך.
Okay, so that was the Ten Commandments as sung by Rabbi Ira Rod, our Chazan. And if you like that recording, it is available commercially. I'm sure you can probably find it online or on Spotify or other things like that. It was produced by the Millikan Foundation. I forgot the name of the whole project. There's a huge project that sort of anthologizes American Jewish music, and the very first volume that came out was Colonial American Synagogue Music. I forgot the title of the album, but something like Jews in the New World, something like that. And it's a great album if you haven't heard it before. It has amazing things on there, including a lot of material from Tisha B'Av, which is unusual and hard to find otherwise. And it has the Ten Commandments. So here we go. Next, let's see here. Gotta go to the next page. Here we go. Okay. I did tell you that we were going to do, in addition to the Ten Commandments, also the theme music for Shabbat. So the theme music for Shabbat is called the Azharot melody, and it is used on Shavuot, which is the holiday of the giving of the Torah. We are going to listen to that theme melody as is sung for Ein Kelokeinu, which you can do in your homes this Shabbat before Birkat Hamazon would be most appropriate. The recording we're going to listen to here, as you can see on the screen, was from a rehearsal of our choir. It was actually the first rehearsal of our choir after the pandemic shut everything down. So this was last May or June. It was shortly before Shavuot, and I think it was like the 2 weeks before Shavuot. They came, they did a rehearsal for Shabbat and for Shavuot, and so they did this melody, and we had it recorded. We thought it was exciting that the choir was back finally, and we had it recorded professionally. So the video came out great. The audio is almost as great, not as great as the video. But here we have the Shearith Israel Choir performing, singing, rehearsing is a better word, Ein Kelokeinu. Sherry is showing me numbers, 132, something like that. I don't know what it is. It's okay. I think it's Ein Kelokeinu. You can see it in different places.
326 in the festivals.
Okay. Well, it's also on the daily Sabbath and the Birkon and all over the place. So here we go. And there you have it. Okay. So that's the theme melody. Da 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 da. So that is found. We do it at Ein Kelokeinu. We also do it in the Kaddish. That is done on Friday night, the second half of the Kaddish. We also do it for the opening of services on Shabbat morning. So it'll be done. Teilat Adonai yedaber pivi barech kol basar Shem kodsho le'olam va'ed va'anachnu nivarecha me'ata v'ad olam. Hallelujah. Just to get a little extra there, okay? And now we move on to the pictures of the Ten Commandments. And we're starting with this object here. I don't know how many of you have seen it before or know what it is. This has a technical term in Judaica called a Ben Gavra, which is Aramaic or Hebrew, really Aramaic, for between the men. And what is it used for? It covers the Torah when it's not being read from between the aliyot. So on Shabbat, we use this Ben Gavra twice a year, on Shavuot and on this Shabbat, because it has the Ten Commandments on it. Now, this, just to give a little credit about it, this was a very old Ben Gavra, a cloth, and the center of it is original to what it was when I started here and when I was growing up. It was embroidered with gold metallic thread, and it was falling apart. And we were pulling it out because we had always pulled this one out for this Shabbat. We were pulling it out every year, twice a year, but it was literally falling apart and ripping in our hands. And so Reverend Phil Sherman, who no longer sings with us, alas, but he arranged and donated monies to repair it. And another one of our members, Betty Emden, had this made. Took as much of the original as she could, which was basically just a center, and added to this beautiful golden material around it. And it also has sort of metallic threads on the edge as well, which aren't the same, but sort of match the theme of this. It's a nice object, and we use it, sparingly. So I hope that it'll last a long time. But I want you to just take a look at the way it depicts the Ten Commandments. Not the Hebrew. I mean, the Hebrew is nice. It's kind of classic square writing, maybe a little bit influenced by the Spanish Portuguese style. But really, I want you to look at the design, how it is square, and it has these kind of curled scrolling things on the top. And tell me where do you think you've seen that before or since, as we go through some of the pictures that we're going to look at now. Okay. Here are the Ten Commandments in the main sanctuary. I may have just given it away. I didn't realize that I was going to give it away so easily. But I'm fairly certain that the Ten Commandments on the Ben Gavra that we use are intended to look like this one right here, especially because of the scrolling.
Nothing's come up.
Do you not see my screen? No. How interesting.
No.
We're going to have to stop the share.
I'm
going to stop the share and redo it.
I see it both.
Okay, I'm going to do it again. Let's try it again. Okay, can you see the sanctuary and the Ten Commandments?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to go back one. Let's see if this is going to confuse you or not. Do you see the Ben Gavra?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Now we do.
Excellent. Okay. But I have lost my view of you. That is what happened here.
Anyway.
Okay. So let's go back to the sanctuary. Still, you can still see it? My screen? Okay, good.
Yep.
Here we are in the main sanctuary of the synagogue, and you see this the depiction of the Ten Commandments that's above the ark. I want you just to look carefully at it. There is the one thing to note is that it's square. Many depictions of the Ten Commandments, not all obviously, but many depictions of the commandments have two curved tops, two curved tablets. But the Talmud description of the two tablets is that they were rectangular and squared at the top, and so this follows that. And it gives some artistic things above it, but that really is following the Talmudic description of the Ten Commandments as being flat on the top. There is we're gonna come back. Yeah, what'd you say?
Which Masechet?
That I don't know. I have to go back and look at my sources.
I'm not on this.
Very challenged me.
Sorry, Angie gives some interesting classes. I went. This one's in the evening. He switched.
Okay. Here we go. Now we're looking at the same thing, but from behind. This is a view that the choir gets every week, or at least the weeks that they're here. But most people have not seen. And now you get a little up close view of it. This is the backside of the Ten Commandments. And here you see again another version of the Ten Commandments. Now, for those of you familiar with the history of Sheretz Israel, who have read Dr. Poole's books, this is probably not surprising. But if you have not, this is unusual. And what this is this is quite old. This set here of the Ten Commandments was originally made in the year 1818. for the consecration of the Second Mill Street Synagogue. And it was donated by Naphtali Judah, who was a pretty important member here and a pretty great philanthropist, and gave a lot of money towards the building of the synagogue. By the way, he also gave things to the Turo synagogue, which are still extant. And we also recite a Misha Beirach for Naphtali Judah on the consecration of the Second Mill Street Synagogue. One of the items that he donated was this 10 Commandments. And when they moved from building to building, I believe that they took from the Second Mill Street Synagogue to the Crosby Street Synagogue. When they moved from the Crosby Street Synagogue to the 19th Street Synagogue, they took them and they embedded them in the back of the new 10 Commandments that were made for the 19th Street Synagogue. And we're going to take a look at the next thing. Notice also that these are square. Both of these are square. And
Question.
marble. Yes, Sherry.
Now, it's only the cloth representation that's called the Ben Givra? Or is
The
it
Ben
both
Gavra
that
is
and
the Ben Gavra
the
is
cloth?
the cloth that goes over the Torah between aliyot.
But
And
not
so
this?
we have a red one that we use on Shabbat. We have a fancy bluish one that we use on holidays or festive occasions. We have this one we use on Shavuot. We have a white one that we use on the high holiday season. And of course, we have a black one for Tisha B'Av.
But this one right here, the if you will, the hard manifestation.
Yeah.
Is that a new piece or relatively cleaned up? Because I've
This is a
never seen it
That's what I was
before.
trying to say. This is a brand new piece with a very old center. The center of it is very old. It used to be, but
No, I'm talking
cloth
about
was all
the
tattered.
physical. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what's at the synagogue on top. Is that a new piece or newly cleaned piece?
Are you talking about this? The 10 Commandments here?
Yes.
No,
It
this
looks
is not at
new.
all. This is not at all. This is originally in the 19th century synagogue and it got moved to here in 73. This is probably circa 1860.
I don't remember it at all being that way.
What is your memory? Because
Well, not the back of it.
nobody has come to see the back of it.
I have.
Well, that it hasn't gotten cleaned up since anytime since the restoration of the synagogue in 1999. So
Okay.
okay. This is the back. This was originally from 1818. Got moved from synagogue to synagogue, placed in the back in 1860 of the new 10 Commandments, which we're going to take a look at a little later also, briefly. Now we see the small synagogue or the little synagogue where we used to pray every day, pre-pandemic anyway. Hopefully we'll get back there one day. But this is the room which has furniture and furnishings from our previous synagogue, going back to 1730 to the Mill Street Synagogue. And there are half a dozen items that come from the Mill Street Synagogue itself, most prominently this set of the 10 Commandments. But I want you to take a look here. These have that arch design, so they're different. But I really want you to take a look at the coloring, because this is not the way they originally were. This is not the way they appeared in the Mill Street Synagogue. This is the way that the Mill Street Synagogue was imagined by members of the sisterhood, and probably notably Esther Oppenheim. I don't know how many of you remember Mona Oppenheim, Zichrona Levracha. Unforgettable if you knew her. Absolutely unforgettable if you knew her. And I wish she was here to tell us about this, but her mother was very involved in the restoration of the small sanctuary. And as you will see in the next picture, it did not always look this way. It looked like this until about 1955 or so. I don't know the exact year. I'm guessing 1955. Mark Aaron may know exactly. But this was the way that the small sanctuary looked when this synagogue here was built in 1897. When I say this synagogue, I mean right here on Central Park West. And they had this room built for the daily use, the small chapel. And I want you to note a few things. Everything, the color scheme is totally different. It's either natural wood, mahogany, or it's black. You know, the railing of the teba is actually painted black, and the Ten Commandments are painted black and gold. This explains something that when I was growing up I never understood, and that is why would the beautiful Tiffany stained glass for this room be like dark and greenish? If you ever come to the small synagogue, you'll see it doesn't match the blue and white theme of the room, and that's because it wasn't made for that. It was made for this room, which was red and mahogany wood and black paint. So that is why, if next time you come to the small synagogue, you'll take a look at the windows in there, and you'll realize that what they were originally designed to match. Okay, now I don't have to. There was a lot of research that went into why they painted the Ten Commandments in the whole room in this white and blue color scheme, because it matched certain other colonial era sanctuaries in America. But I can guarantee you that the Ten Commandments were black and gold because all the other ones were or are or still are from our sister congregations as well. So take a look at the top left. This is the Turo Synagogue. It's actually a painted depiction of the Ten Commandments. Here, the bottom right is a painted depiction of the Ten Commandments in London from Bevis Mark Synagogue. On top of it is Bevis Mark Synagogue itself, which has black and gold up on the top of the Ten Commandments. On the bottom left is the Esnoga in Amsterdam from the 1670s, which is mahogany and gold. So it's wooden brown, dark brown and gold. And I could go on and on. I could give you example after example, including churches of the era, both in America and in Europe, that it was either painted black and gold or natural wood and gold. So I am quite confident that the original Ten Commandments in the Mill Street Synagogue that we still have were black and gold and not the white and gold as we have them today. And now let's take a look at the 19th Street Synagogue. I'm going to have to stop my share for a second and find you. I'm missing a slide, but I had an excellent picture of what would have been the little synagogue in the 19th Street Synagogue. Let's see if I can find that picture again. Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, I see some chat. Let's see what I missed here.
Was there, was that the first time there was an adjacent, a little synagogue?
I don't know. There may have been, I don't know enough about the Crosby Street Synagogue to know if there was I think the Crosby Street Synagogue also had a small chapel and a big chapel, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up. Good question. Okay, here is the small chapel, the little synagogue in the 19th Street Synagogue, which was on 19th Street and Fifth Avenue from 1860 to 1897. And here you can see it had black and gold. Everything was black and gold. I don't know if the shocking thing, Mark Aaron, or I don't know, or Jack, whoever is going to start screaming at me, there were pews in front of the teba.
Why were there pews in front of the teba?
I know in the main sanctuary, they added them. 19th Street Synagogue didn't originally have them, and they added them because they needed to. Maybe they had so many people coming to Daily Minyan that they needed to add pews. Don't know. Good question.
It's interesting. In Amsterdam, they come in front of the teba, but they continue to face inward.
And London also, in Bevis Marks, the orientation is to the center,
right?
Leaving an aisle between the Chazan and the Heichal, which is unoccupied, because you're not supposed to stand between the Chazan and the Heichal not supposed to get in front of his prayers.
However, at least in one congregation that I know of, the person who has had the aliyah has walked in front of the teba back to his seat.
Seems weird to me.
Well, I'm just saying what I've seen.
Well, let's go back and take a look now at the main sanctuary. So we saw the small sanctuary of the 19th century synagogue. Now let's take a look at the main sanctuary. It was a gorgeous synagogue that was on 19th and Fifth Avenue. It was huge. It was, I don't have all the pictures to show you, but had a dome that's way up higher above the arc here that you can't even see. And in height, much higher in height than you can tell from the picture here. And let's see. Okay, that should do it. So
where are these published?
These are not published. I mean, there are some, like there is Dr. Poole had a booklet called the 19th Century Synagogue, which this may appear in, but this is a picture that I took from the archives, and you are seeing it from my own photograph and the blow up made by me. So the details are not it's not a good enough photograph that I can say with certainty that this is exactly the same as the 10 Commandments that we have in the sanctuary today, but it's close enough that I feel confident that the 10 Commandments that we have in the main sanctuary today are the same as they were transferred from the 1860 synagogue. And but I want to show you a few other things, not about the 10 Commandments, but just about the 1960 synagogue. It had a pulpit here. I don't know if you can see it, on stilts. That would be the rabbi had to ascend from these stairs. You see it on the bottom right of the ark here? The ark is very tall. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 steps that go up to the ark when you can take out the Torah. And there's this interesting canopy here, 10 Commandments. And then way up on the top of that is Dalef Miatah made like we have in our sanctuary. And in our sanctuary, that Dalef Miatah made comes at the bottom between, and the 10 Commandments goes above it. Nothing is above the 10 Commandments. So it's quite interesting the way that this was designed. And here, once again, you see these pews in front of the Teba. Now, these I know from records of the synagogue were added. Originally, they were not there. They were added because they needed extra seats in this sanctuary. That's the presentation I have for you today. I am going to stop the recording and allow people to comment and talk.